but I thought it'd be interesting because I have played the other two quite extensively. But if anyone else has any suggestions, I am happy to take those as well. Ratchet's kind of still going. Like, the latest Ratchet game was a fucking, what do you call it? A battle royale game, like a mobile battle royale game. The last actual Ratchet game, I think, was like 2020, wasn't it? Ratchet and Clank Wikipedia. 2021 was Rift Apart. And yeah, Ranger Rumble was then a third-person, free-to-play, online bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Like, Ratchet and Clank is not dead, but, like, if you look at this listing, right, like, it's kind of dead. It lived the longest, though, right? It lived well into the PS3 era. We had a PS4 game and a PS5 game. So, like, it's doing way better than... It's doing way fucking better than the others are doing. That's for goddamn sure. Anyway, let's take a look.
I recently replayed Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Sly Cooper.
Not played it, but I need to get to it. I don't know why I never played it. I had friends who were really big fans of Sly Cooper. I don't know why I didn't get... I don't know why I never played it.
The big three platformers of the PS2 era. And one of them feels surprisingly modern. One of them hasn't aged nearly as well as people remember.
The first Ratchet and Clank game is it's a good game. It's still a good game, but I think the games did improve massively with the later titles.
And one of them completely flipped my opinion. So the question is, which one of them holds up today? Starting with Sly, and honestly, this is where the aged conversation gets tricky. Sly relies on kind of a comic book aesthetic, but the delivery feels thin, and most of the story is told through still images with voiceovers. But the real issue is that the plot is very simple. You start the game with one...
Frankly, that was true for a lot of these games of the era, though.
...goal, getting your family's book back. And it never really goes beyond that. There is no major twists or character shifts. While it's stylish, it lacks cinematic energy. It just didn't have the same sense of scale or growth as the other two. Jak and Daxter is a step up. The goal is simple.
Okay, hold up. When was Sly Cooper? When did the first game come out? First game was 2002. Jak and Daxter. First game was 2001. And then Ratchet and Clank. I know they're all really close to each other. I just didn't remember the order. And Ratchet and Clank is also 2002. Okay.
Daxter back to normal. But where this beats Sly is the world building. As the game opens up, the mystery of the precursors kind of takes over. You're constantly finding these massive ancient machines and cities.
Precursor Legacy was a technical marvel for that early in the PS2. Like this... We've watched a video on this in the past. The way that it made the world as big as it did, actually incredibly technically impressive. Now, it's technically impressive. However, this is also a big part of the reason why there's a lot of speedrunning bugs in the game, because there's some weird loading hacks they had to do.
It takes over. You're constantly finding these massive ancient machines and cities that are just left behind by a civilization that just vanished. It gives the world a sense of scale and history that makes it feel much deeper than just the standard platformer. But the winner here is easily Ratchet and Clank. The story here is kind of gritty. It's a satire of corporate greed that feels more relevant in 2026 than it did back in 2000.
I don't know if a story is really something I'm looking at too much for a game like this. I care more about the characterization, right? You can have a paper-thin story if the characters themselves are fun.
And a 2. But the real standout to me is the friction about halfway through between Ratchet and Clank themselves. They actually have a falling out. Ratchet's obsessed with Captain Quark, and it makes him act like a genuine jerk. And that conflict between the two characters gives it a level of depth that the other two just don't follow up on. The verdict, Jack has better lore, Sly has got more of an artistic style, but Ratchet and Clank...
I think the lore for Jack also really comes together more when you go to the later games. You realize in Jack 2 that you are in this... Basically, you are traversing through the city that you would... Wasn't it... Didn't you... you travel to the future? Yeah, you travel to the future. I think Jack was from the future or something. It's been a long time since I played the game. Basically, you're traveling through the area that you were in the first game, but now there is a city that's taken over all of that nature.
My opinion, has the best writing and humor and the most modern character arc. Starting with Ratchet, and man, does he just feel heavy. It's like he's got weights in his shoes. The biggest...
I don't know what he's going to say for Jack and Daxter. Precursor Legacy still feels really tight.
Problem here, I think, is the lack of strafing. You're constantly fighting with Ratchet to get him to aim at enemies. He does have the helipack movement, but outside of that, just moving Ratchet around feels clunky and slow. Compared to modern standards, Ratchet is easily the most dated feeling of the three here. Next up is Sly, and he's definitely a step up from Ratchet's tanky, kind of slow controls, but he comes with a catch. Sly's movement is all about context-sensitive actions. Basically, you jump near a pipe or a ledge and you tap or hold circle, and the game essentially does the rest for you.
Right.
It really looks good, but it feels like you're platforming with safety rails on. You don't have a lot of creative freedom, and you're basically just going where the game wants you to go and where the magnet will pull you to. Then we get to Jack, and this is where you realize why people still talk about this game even in 2026. Jack 1 feels liquid. There's almost zero input lag.
Yeah, Jack 1 gives me similar vibes. Obviously, very different kind of controls, but similar kind of vibes to going back and playing Kingdom Hearts and especially Kingdom Hearts 2. If Jack 1 came out today as like an indie game, whatever, this would still be a phenomenal game. If Kingdom Hearts 2 came out today, it would still be a phenomenal game. They are both incredible when it comes to their movement, when it comes to their combat, and just general flow of the gameplay.
You're constantly combining the spin attack with the double
They
jump.
do
to
not
just
feel
get a
like
little
games that
bit
came out
more
over 20 years
distance,
ago.
Combining it with the head slam to get a little bit more height, or just a roll into a long jump just to get around the map that little bit faster. It feels better than most modern platformers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The verdict is Ratchet is too heavy, Sly feels a little bit too automated for me, but Jack and Daxter offers the pure, snappy, unadulterated controls that should be in a 3D platformer. I think round 2 definitely goes to Jack. I think let's just look at Sly first. Combat here really isn't the focus of the game. It's more of a penalty for failing stealth. Most enemies are a 1 to 2 hit kill, but you yourself are just as fragile. It works for a stealth game. Don't get me wrong, I think that this is fantastic for a stealth game, but compared to the other two in this category, it feels very, very one-dimensional. In the grand scheme of things, Ratchet should take this. The variety of weapons is kind of legendary, but the lack of strafing makes the actual fighting feel terrible by today's standards.
Yeah, like
I died.
I think Jack 2 and Jack 3, Ratchet 2 and Ratchet 3 feel much better to play.
Quite a few times just trying to get the auto lock to cooperate. It's clunky and frustrating, and it's honestly surprised me how much the movement in this game holds back the combat. But that leaves us with Jack. It's very, very simple, but I think that it's more polished than Sly.
Yeah,
you can combine all of his different moves in a lot more ways than you can with Sly, like the punch into an uppercut, into a spin. Even though enemies die in 1 to 2 hits, the real edge, I think, over the other two is the ecosystem.
I think what Jack did differently is Jack had a very you had very limited options, but they were very polished options. PS5 Ratchet did an amazing job with the weapons. Oh yeah, no, later Ratchet games feel absolutely amazing. It's just they didn't really have the they didn't have the model down in the first game. They weren't entirely sure how Ratchet should feel.
Blue eco for speed, yellow eco to shoot fireballs, or red eco to make your attacks stronger. I think it adds another layer of depth that makes it feel just a little bit better than the other two. Ratchet has got better guns, but Jack has got a better fight in 2026. I'd rather have a polished spin kick than a rocket launcher that I basically can't aim without standing still.
Yeah.
I think round 3 goes to Jack. Now, I just want to preface this section by saying I think all of these games still look pretty good. Sure, they're a little dated.
Sure.
I think that the unique art style of each of them, whether it's the comic book style or...
Yeah, that was what was good about games of this era. If you just upscale them and just like deal with the crispy textures, they all still look great. That can't be said for a lot of the games that tried to look modern for the era, with exceptions. Okay? I do think Metal Gear Solid still looks amazing, but again, most people are not Kojima.
Sly Cooper or the really over vibrant colors of Jack, they still work today. But how a game is structured, that's what defines how much you actually enjoy exploring it. Sly Cooper to me feels the most retro here. It follows a classic kind of hub and spoke model, but the real issue is the loading screens between each of them. Having to sit through a transition every time you have to enter a new area feels really fragmented.
Right.
It feels like more of a polished PS1 game than it did a next-gen PS2 evolution. And then Ratchet and Clank takes the planet-hopping approach. I love how every world in this feels unique with its own different atmosphere. While you still deal with loading into each planet, the scale and the environment...
the Ratchet loading is different in that case, right? In Sly, it is a load screen. In Ratchet, it is a load screen hidden behind a ship, right? So it's still a load screen. You're still not interacting with it, but it did something to hide the fact that it is loading. It sort of made it seem more seamless by having it be contextual to the game.
Make that kind of disconnect between each of them worth it, in my opinion. But then there's Jack and Daxter. Even in 2026, the world, in my opinion, is a masterpiece of immersion. There's 0 loading screens, and you could stand in a village and look over at the forbidden jungle in the distance and just walk there. It makes the world feel like a cohesive, living place. The verdict.
Again, there are load screens in this as well. They use elevators, they use doors, other things like that. But they contextually make sense. What company was that patented minigames inside loading screens, which is why the companies can't implement it? Wasn't it like Konami or Capcom, something like that? I feel like it's one of those. I could be wrong, though.
I love exploring all 3 of these games, but in terms of pure immersion, I think Jack and Daxter is on another level. It's a singular living world rather than just a collection of stages.
And the Zuma missions as well. These are load screens. These are load screens. There's a reason you can't see the next zone you go to, because it is, whilst you're going through this segment, it's loading those assets in the background.
Singular living world rather than just a collection of stages. I think round 4 definitely goes to Jack. Finally, we have...
You know, I can't really comment on music. Music doesn't immediately come to mind for me in most games. Like, there's very few games where I think music is the standout feature, right? Obviously, Kingdom Hearts comes to mind, right? Kingdom Hearts immediately comes to mind. The Trails games have god-tier music as well. Final Fantasy. But I've never really thought about the music of a PS2 platformer.
The music and sound design. This is probably the hardest category to judge, because all 3 of these games use sound perfectly, in my opinion, to capture their atmosphere.
Also Pokemon, right? You hear like, I don't know, the Cynthia theme or the Lavender Town theme. Like these are songs you immediately recognize. Stardew Valley? Okay, fair. They're they're all competent music for what the game's trying
I really
to be.
do think they all sound incredible, but in my opinion, I think Sly Cooper actually does something really special. I really loved the small sound effects that sync up with your movement in the game, like the little guitar strings that play exactly when you're creeping along an edge.
That's cool. Okay, that's actually a cool touch.
It makes the world feel like kind of like a living cartoon. I really did enjoy Ratchet's like kind of industrial grit type of music, and Jack's ambient world are great. But Sly's soundtrack feels like it's actually a part of your gameplay. The verdict, all three of these, in my opinion, are 10 out of 10s for music. But the extra layer of charm, I have to give this one to Sly Cooper. So tallying all of the points here, Ratchet and Clank definitely took the story for me. I think Sly Cooper took the music to just a little bit higher than the other two, but I think what makes Jak and Daxter hold up in 2026 compared to the other two are the controls, the combat, and the level design. I think that this makes Jak the winner by far. It's the game that feels the most modern and fluid to play even in 2026. But replaying all of these back to back for this video really highlighted the gaps between them. While they all belong to the same legendary era, seeing how they handle side by side made it clear that these studios also had really different priorities. But even with their flaws, I think that these games have more personality than most AAA titles that release today. And if you had to pick one to play through right now, which one are you going to grab? Is it Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, or Sly Cooper? Let me know in the comments which one you think aged.
I've already played through Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter multiple times, so it would have to be Sly for me. But if I just wanted to go back to one, regardless of whether I've played them, I could do another playthrough of Jak and Daxter. Also, open goal does exist, so you know, I want to do open goal at some point. Well, that was good. That was good. I enjoyed that. I'm just gonna keep cycling through things I have here, unless anyone has any suggestions.